Hello and welcome to the Fill Her Cup podcast, episode 1. I am your host, Tamia Lester, and this is the Fill Her Cup podcast where you are bound to leave with your glass fuller than it was when you came. I'm so excited to see you. I honestly cannot believe that I'm actually doing this right now. And to be very honest, I think I got my mic backwards. 1 second, y'all. Okay, here we go. I am super excited to be here with you. I have been creating this, working on this for over a year now, and it is here. The moment is here, and I'm truly so excited. So, this is a home for you. This is a safe space that I am creating for you to be filled, to have your cup filled, because we know, girl, that you are pouring into nooks and crannies of every space everywhere else, and you deserve to be poured into as well. So before we begin, I do want to pray, say a prayer over us. I am a woman of God, so I'm going to pray over us before we begin, just so God covers our space and, sprinkles his blessings over this podcast. So please bow your heads so I can begin. God, I thank you so much for bringing me into this space today. I thank you so much for every soul, every body, every mind that has clicked play on this podcast. I pray that you soften their hearts, open their minds to receive, and that this truly becomes a podcast that they want to listen to or take part in the future, God. Thank you for your ideas. I pray that everything that I say and speak is led and driven by you. I pray over my mind, body, and soul as I transparently share who I am with the world. Thank you for your covering. Thank you for your blessing. And I also pray over the safety and well being of every viewer of this podcast today. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Okay, so I have my notes here, girl. I have my Bible here, girl. And we are going to get right into it. Today's episode is called From Empty to Full. Why? We will get into it. But this is the Fill Her Cup podcast, and it is very important that y'all know how I went from being empty, literally, to being filled. Okay. So this episode is just solely to give you a breakdown of who I am, introduce myself in case you've never met me before, and then also give you a schmeal on what drove me to create this podcast. Why a podcast, Tamia? So that leads me into who am I? I am Tamia Lester. I am a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a friend, but I also am a certified transitional life coach. I'm internationally accredited, and I am an educator to little elementary school students. And now I'm a podcaster. My passion truly lies in my coaching and just being able to pour into women and impact them. So I do have a business called Clarity with Me, which is my coaching business, my baby, where I help women face life head on with full faith, full confidence and support and healthy accountability. So if you want to talk to me, I do free discovery calls. You can find it in my link in my bio, and I'll drop that, of course, in the description below if you want to reach out to me on a private level. But I simply love to give back to my community of women. And that is why I created this podcast. I am a social media girlfriend, social media girly. Get it right. I do have a YouTube channel, Tamia Lester, where for the past 4 to 5 years, I've posted just little snippets of my life, day in the lives, mom vlogs, my labor and delivery stories. But I wanted to be able to have direct conversations with other women. So this podcast will be having guests. It won't just be me. But have direct conversations with other women, pour into women in a conversational sense, and reach more women. So I want to reach the masses. Like my Instagram TED Talk stories were not working enough for me, girl. So I wanted to make sure that I have a space where you can come and just talk with me or listen to me talk, if that's something that you like to do. Just about my life experiences, allow women to share their own life experiences, their stories, and what keeps their cup filled. Because when we are running on empty, we are not running at our best. So I want to make sure that I provide that for you all because I love you so much, honestly. And if we've never met before, I love you already, girl. So who is this podcast for? We're going to get into that because it's like, do I need to be watching this? You're a mom, you're a wife. Yes, if you're a mommy, you will benefit from here. Definitely, 100%. If you are a wife, you will benefit from this space. If you are a woman of God, you will benefit from this space. But even if you don't know, even if you're like, I'm not really sure about my faith yet, I don't even know where I'm going, that would be awesome for you too to listen to this podcast. This is simply to motivate women, to pour into you, to allow you to receive however you need to simply receive. I am a coach, so I will provide resources and tips and tricks on simply what I have found to work effectively for ladies in their transitional period, especially in our 20s, because girl, we know it gets crazy. So you can get a dip and dabble of everything. So yes, if you're a mom, I'm your girl. Yes, if you're a wife, I'm your girl, but you also don't need to be that to listen to this podcast. You just need to be a woman with an open and soft heart. Okay, ready and willing to receive and be poured into. But especially if you're like, okay, what life circumstances can definitely benefit from this podcast? I have listed a couple things for you. Women feeling misplaced, women who have been called to motherhood, called to leadership, called to business ownership, called to minister. Just been called, girl. You didn't run to it. God called you to it. This is for you. Women undergoing uncomfortable change. This could be motherhood. This could be becoming a wife. This could be in a relationship that you know might turn into marriage. This may be changing friendships or trying to find friendships. This space is for you too, honey. And women seeking a deeper relationship, an initial source of love from God first, so they never go thirsty. So I wrote those down because I wanted to be specific. And being that I mentioned never wanting to go thirsty, I need you guys to know how I went from you ladies, I'm sorry, to know how I've went from empty to full. Meaning when I was thirsty and I was relying on temporary things to satisfy me and fuel my thirst, which ended up in me being thirsty again, to having my cup filled with living water and dealing with less worry, less anxiety, less desires and codependency from other things that are not set and meant to fuel me. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And that's the purpose of this podcast, is honestly just to fuel you with tools, with words, with encouragement that'll allow you to walk through life with confidence and understanding your authority in your own life. And to be very honest, you deserve to have your cup filled. With all you do every day, girl, I see you. You deserve a space that you're going to come in feeling good, maybe not feeling good, but definitely leaving with something. Definitely leaving with something that you can carry, something that you can share with your friends. I want this to be something that a podcast that you copy and paste the link and share to your good sis. Like, listen to what Tamia had to say, or listen to what Tamia's guest had to say. I just want to make sure you have a resource in a safe space, right? So let's get into a little bit about me, about who I am and what I have to offer and how I got here and why I feel this is important, right? I'm calling this episode From Empty to Full because there was truly a point in my life where I was empty. And by empty, I don't necessarily mean like I had nothing in me. I was bitter and dark and sad. No, but it definitely wasn't the living water of God fueling me and keeping me going. I was driving my own car. I was keeping my own boat afloat. And I think when I think back to these times where I was empty, I go back to 21-year-old Tamia, senior in college, pregnant with her first son, sleeping in a dorm with that big belly on that twin size bed, working two jobs, full time hours, credits, 18 credit semesters, trying to get by. And I mean, even when I wasn't solely looking to God to get me through those seasons, and when I say solely looking to God, I don't mean I did not believe in Him. I believed in Him for sure. I definitely prayed for Him when in times of need, but I was not leaning on the Lord to get me through my pregnancy that I did not plan, to get me through feeling scared, to get me through my college semesters. I was not prioritizing Him and my time with Him to ensure that I got through those things and thrived through those things. So that's what I mean by empty and not seeking and leaning to God in those seasons. But even in those seasons, He made sure I was good. And that's why for you, if you feel like, oh, I don't pray enough, I don't go to church enough, like God doesn't really want to hear from me, that is not the truth. I'm here to tell you today that that is not the truth. That is a lie from the devil. Okay? Because even though maybe you're not looking to Him and prioritizing Him right now, you're still a priority, you're still His child, and He's looking to you. So I'm going to share my From Empty to Full. And I'm going to start right now and get to it because I know we don't have all day because you're a busy boss lady. Okay. So I will say, like I said, back in 2018, senior in college, fully pregnant, full out with my first son, Amir. And God still provided me with a safe space and a village to get me through that. My friends were absolutely amazing. I felt tremendously loved. I was definitely taken care of. I had wonderful health care. My family loved me. Nobody shamed me or made me feel bad for where I was in my life. But I truly was holding everything together on my own. I was like, oh, I need two jobs. So I worked at Call It Spring at Willowbrook Mall in Jersey. And then I was working on my alma mater, Montclair State University, in the alumni call center. And I was doing that tired. And then a full-time student taking 18 credits, trying to just make sure that I graduated and make sure that I kept my GPA at a 4.0. I was crazy. Okay. I was crazy in a good way. It was a good thing. I could definitely commend myself for it, but it was me holding myself through that mentally. Like I was not like God carried me through this. God, although He was doing that for me, I was pushing through and trying to hold everything on my own and make sure everything was okay for Amir when he got here, when he was born. And what did that do? It emptied my cup. How, Tamia? Because I was tired. When you overexert yourself and you try to carry everything that you have on your own, whether it's yours or not, because sometimes we carry other people's things. When you carry all of those things on your own, you are vamping from your energy. You are draining your cup and you have to keep refilling it, right? So let's talk about throughout the years. I stayed on that survival mode, get through exhaustion kind of streak all the way up till about 2023. So 2018 to 2023, your girl was on straight, pushing through, trying to do what I could to stay above water. Yes, I was going to church. Yes, I was praying. Yes, I believed in God. Was I allowing Him to have the wheel? No. If something happened, I was immediately trying to figure it out. I was immediately trying to put things in place. I was getting jobs, going into substitute teaching, all this stuff. I was not praying before doing those things. And so when I was tired and exhausted and my marriage was strained and I was arguing with this and I was losing friends, I'm like, why is everything being taken from me? Why don't I feel fulfilled? Why, if my husband is struggling in something and can't pour into me, I feel like my marriage is over. I feel like I'm lonely and I'm empty because I'm seeking those things and that fulfillment and that water from the wrong places. I'm seeking that fulfillment, that pour into my cup from the wrong places. My husband will be vamped of energy. He cannot eternally fill my cup. My friends will be vamped of energy and have their own things. They cannot eternally fill my cup and make me feel fulfilled. I have to graduate. I graduate. All those friends that were around me, rubbing my belly and giving me snacks, they now have their own lives, So when it came to just being me, when my husband's in boot camp for the Navy, and I'm now in nursing school, and I have a new baby, and I'm trying to figure things out, I felt so empty and so alone. I felt depressed. I had postpartum depression because I was just like, why am I so sad? Because, girl, you're leaning on your own understanding. You're leaning on yourself and other people to make you feel fulfilled, and that is not going to do it for you. That is not going to get you through. It's just not. You're able to, feel good about saying you're strong, you're resilient. Those are all things that are true. Those are all things that are true to me. And I feel like God allowed me to do those things so I knew my strength. But I think He did it also so I would know how beautiful and feel how loving it is when He let me know that I didn't have to carry it on my own, even if I could. Right? So I would say about 2020 came around and Amir is now like 1 year old and I'm pregnant again. And I'm still not in a space of having my cup filled through God or through just simply understanding myself as a woman and the things that I needed. I'm still figuring myself out because also remember, I am 22 at this point. So I had Amir at 21. I'm 20. I'm turning, I thought, When I found out I was having Aiden, I turned 23. So I'm still a girl learning myself. So if you're in your early 20s, girl, be easy on yourself. Be easy on yourself. But what I'm saying is, I definitely was not as knowledgeable of who I am and the things that I need and what would release stress from me as I am now at 27. Um, but yeah, I definitely was still leaning on my husband for my happiness, for my peace of mind. And he was going through it himself and he couldn't give it to me. But you know what that enemy tried to make me believe? Oh, then maybe that's not my husband. Maybe this is not meant to be. Or friendships were going away and all this stuff. Like, honestly, just more emptiness because I was leaning on my own understanding and I was leaning on trying to drive my own car and keep things afloat for myself. And again, it was only making me more tired. But once I found out I was pregnant with Aiden, I think that it started to hit a little bit to me like, okay, Tamia, we need to make some changes. We need to shift some things around. So at this time, I was in nursing school. I decided to leave nursing school because I knew the mom that I wanted to be. I knew that I wanted to be more present for my children, and not that nurses that are mothers. My mom was a nurse, my grandma's a nurse. They are fully present for their children. But like, I ideally eventually want to be a stay at home and simply just talking to y'all on this podcast and coaching my clients. So once I got pregnant with my second son, I noticed like hard body career, working all day is just not for me. So I did at this moment try to figure out my next lane, which is when I got certified as a coach. Um, but through this, I still was not feeling fulfilled. Why? Because I didn't know about myself. I didn't read my word. And I say that because your word tells you who you are as a child of God. So I was just trying to keep up, honestly. I was trying to stay afloat and keep up and make sure that I was setting the table right so that my family and I didn't drown. And why I say we didn't drown was because during this time, making sure we didn't drown is because during this time, my husband and I were really struggling. We were not seeing eye to eye. We were not getting along. And I wasn't sure if I was going to be doing this by myself or not. And that again also was because we were fueling our own relationship. We were not putting God in the center of our marriage, and we didn't really have much examples either. So that was vamping me because I was also trying to carry all of that on my back by myself. And again, I created this community so that you can have a place that fills you because during this season, yes, I had my friends and yes, I had family, but nobody really understood what I was going through because my friends weren't mothers. My friends were wives, and that's not their fault. But I didn't have a space to go to, a podcast to watch, or a church to, a church family to lean on or pray over me, or a mentor to guide me and say, like, hey, this is the way you can go about it instead of just trying to carry everything by yourself. I isolated myself, um, pulled myself into isolation. So I'm usually on social media. Like I said, I had my YouTube channel, Tamia Lester. I stopped posting. And things kind of just got more ugly the more I didn't lean on the Lord and the more I isolated myself and tried to figure things out on my own. So by 2021, I decided to move to Dallas because, again, I was trying to find ways to make myself feel better. And Dallas did make me feel better. I did enjoy moving, and I essentially was moving because I was like, maybe I just need something new. Maybe my family needs something new, a new environment. New York can be stressful and overwhelming, and we just wanted to be safe. Wanted a safe space. Not that New York isn't safe, but I mean mentally and emotionally. So I moved to Dallas, but of course God is like, yeah, okay, like I'll give you Dallas, but like you're still not putting me first. I'm still not your priority. You're not the main one that I'm not the main one that you're seeking. When it comes to making these things happen to you. And was I grateful to God for all of those blessings? Yes, I was. Was I praying to him to get me the apartment in Dallas and make sure my job was secured in Dallas? Yes, I was. But those were all requests. And like those were all like kind of circumstantial or transactional. And that relationship, like God will take care of his children, but essentially that is not what your relationship with God should be like. It should be like, man, you're fueling me, like you're filling my cup, you're giving me the things I need to move forward. But I wasn't looking at it that way. When we first moved to Dallas, I definitely started feeling a little better, but because my foundation was not set on the Lord, I was very stressed out. My husband and I, it was good, and then became really bad because I think God was still working on us. I think the enemy still had us on a humongous attack, and we were still trying to handle everything independently on our own. So we started bumping heads even more. Things got very scary for us. And what was I doing? Instead of, oh, let me go to church, let me find a church home, I began to smoke marijuana. I began to smoke to calm down and numb the feelings that I was having. Um, and for some people, like, okay, you want to smoke, that's fine. Like, that's good for you. For me, I became dependent on it because I could no longer depend on my husband to make me comfortable, which is still not the Lord. I then was depending on marijuana to calm my anxiety because I was waking up with anxiety attacks, panic attacks. Um, I just was overwhelmed. I was very scared. I was not myself. I would look in the mirror and be like, this is not you. Like me at the core was fully vamped because I had been pouring and pouring and pouring and swimming and driving, all for myself and not releasing control. As much as I said I wanted to, I wasn't releasing control. Anything happened, I was calling my best friend. I was calling this person and that person, external resources, marijuana, people, isolation, all these things to try to make me feel better. And that was not helping me. And then I was about to turn 25. And I think everybody has this pivotal moment at 25 where you do self reflection and you look at your life and where it is. And I was doing that and I didn't like it at all. And at this time, God had stripped a lot of friendships from me. And I think it was because he needed me to just lean on him solely. So I took a trip to Aruba that initially was supposed to be a big group trip because Tamia did not like to be by herself. And God said, no, baby, I need you. I need you and only you. So my husband couldn't come. My friends that I intended to come to me couldn't come anymore. And eventually one of my best friends and my mom and my sister met me on that trip, but it wasn't until after my birthday and God was able to communicate with me what he needed to communicate. So by the time I got to Aruba, I had this epiphany, this revelation, and it was like, you just need to lean on the Lord. Like, you say you believe in God, you say you feel all these ways, and you want to be this and that, and you have your coaching certification, and you graduated college, and you're a mom, and you're a wife, but you're not feeling fulfilled by all of these things because you have no foundation. You have no foundation. You have nothing pouring back into you. You're a coach, you're pouring into other women. You're a mom, you're pouring into your sons. You're a wife, you're pouring into your husband. You're a friend, you're pouring into your friends. You have nothing that is pouring into your cup. And so I came across a word in John chapter 4, and I do have my Bible here, but I came across a word in John chapter 4, and it's when Jesus meets the Samaritan woman at the well, and he talks to her about her needing living water. And the first thing that Jesus does in this part of John is he asks her for a drink because he just wanted to initiate a conversation with her. And God had me by myself on that trip at the beach. And he asks her for a drink, the Samaritan woman, and he's like, I'm thirsty. Can you give me a drink? And because they were of different descent, she was Samaritan, he was a Jew. They did not get along for context. Not Jesus didn't get along, but Samaritans and Jews did not see eye to eye. So she knew he was a Jew, and she was kind of like, "What are you doing here? Like, why would you ask me for a drink, knowing who I am?" And his response to her, essentially in short terms, was just, "If you knew who I was sitting in front of you, you would ask me for a drink." You would lean on me for guidance. And I read this word because in here he also speaks to her about the things that she is currently giving time and fulfilling her spiritual thirst with. It's going to make her thirsty again. And for that woman, it happened to be men that she was with. And he's like, the man that you're with now is not your husband. And these things, like he knew her. He showed her that I know who you are. And I'm letting you know the things that you are leaning on for fulfillment are going to make you thirsty again. But what I have for you, well, you'll never thirst again. You'll have eternal fulfillment. And that is when I knew everything else that I'm leaning on that I think makes me feel happy is going to make me thirsty again. But if I just truly lean on God and I just truly allow Him to fill my cup, then I will be okay in a sustained way for the long term. I'll be okay. And that was the peace that I was seeking. That was the way to the fullness of my cup that I was seeking. So I'm going to read the word for you specifically. It says, so I'm going to read John chapter 4, verse 10. And Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." And this also showed me that all you need to do is simply ask God. And when you ask him for help, truly and honestly release your control so that he can help you, so that he can pour into your cup. And when I got back from that trip, y'all, something switched. My friend Bella, she brought me to church. She had been inviting me to church right before the trip. She actually did my lashes before my birthday trip. So God was already lining up the ducks, you know. But we had a great connection at my first appointment. We became friends. We're still friends. And she brought me to church. And since brought me to church, it wasn't easy either. Let me run that back. She was inviting me to church since March. I didn't go till September. But that first time that I went in September, I joined that first weekend, and Shoreline City has been my home since. And in that place, God stripped me clean. Um, he stripped me clean, and He filled my cup. And honestly, since I began to read my Bible and since I began to understand who I am as God's child, I felt full. I felt fulfilled inside. And I was baptized in March of 2023. And by July of 2023, I received the idea for this podcast. Sitting on my couch in my home. No, everything wasn't perfect, but at this point, I was less anxious about life. I wasn't worrying as much. My husband and I had both been baptized. We were communicating better. And God said, "Okay, Mia, like, I want you to touch women in a different way. I want you to pour into my church, which is the body of Christ, in a different way." And sorry, my nose is stuffy, but a podcast just came upon my mind, and I'm like, how do you even do that? Like, I'm used to getting on YouTube, pressing record, and just putting videos together, but no, like, I asked him, I said, "Okay, God, if this is really like not my idea and your idea, can you show me these signs?" And eventually maybe I'll share the signs. It's a really cute story, but he literally blatantly showed me the clues, the signs that I had asked for. And so I had confirmation that it was okay for me to do it. And since then, I have intentionally been working on the Fill Her Cup podcast. The name came to me in a dream. Um, and I just am so happy that this is something that's fueled by God and something that I know is going to touch many hearts and something that I know is going to be a space for many women to share their testimonies, share how they stay afloat, share how they keep their cups filled, or even come here and have conversations with me and find ways to fill their cup if it's not, you know? Um, so I just want this to be a safe space. And our thing is going to be meeting at the well, um, because that's the word that shifted my whole perspective is that moment with Jesus at the well. Because if only we knew the amount of times that Jesus has met us at a well to ask us for a drink, to ask us to just simply see him and have conversation with him so that he could pour living water into us, we'd be amazed. And I think this was such a loving moment, and her joy afterward to go share with the people that she knew. She didn't even believe in him. She didn't even believe that he was the Messiah until this moment. So it's like if God will pour into the cup of a woman that didn't even believe in him yet, that should tell you he has so much grace and he has so much love, and he is simply waiting on you to meet him at the well. So I just want this podcast to be a place where you get your cup filled with living water, because we're going to talk about the word. We're going to talk about God. And we're also going to talk about other things that can sustain our cup in life, like self-care and mental health and all that great stuff. But I just simply want you to know, like, no matter where you are in your life in general, you're a mom, you want to be a mom. You're a wife, you want to be a wife. You're single, you're married. You know, you're lost, you're found. Whichever. I just want you to know that this podcast is a place for you to feel safe. It's a place you can send me questions. You can come to me and talk to me in my DM. And I just want us to build a community. This woman, this Samaritan woman, she went to the well by herself. And who knows why? Typically, women who went to the well at this time in this day and age would go with a group of women, but she went by herself. And I went by myself too in Aruba. And sometimes we need to go alone. But I want this space to be a space where you know you can come to a well and find other women here that love you. You can find me here that loves you, that wants to pour into you and give you life and refuel you and allow you to know that you are loved just as much as I am. So you can find me here on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple, on my Instagram at the Coach Mia, on TikTok at the Coach Mia. My YouTube channel is Tamia Lester. This Spotify is the Fill Her Cup Pod. Okay. And we're going to have a blast and we're going to have breakthroughs and we're going to talk and we're going to cry and we're going to laugh. But that is how I went from empty to full. I was handling everything on my own. It was getting me nowhere. I was falling, but God kept picking me right back up. But at the moment I knew the kind of water that I needed in my cup, I've been okay. I felt full. Does the devil still attack me? Yeah, because I'm a child of God and I'm over here working. But I feel like I fight my battles differently. I fight my battles with authority because my cup is filled with the right things. So I hope you come back to meet me at the well because this space is for you. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope that this feels good to you. And I hope to just see you again. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, add this podcast to your playlist. And I will see you again to fill your cup. Bye.